Well, good day, everyone. We are back again on this beautiful Friday. I hope everybody is doing well today. I am so excited about the person that I get to share with you guys on today, and that of my friend Felicia. And this is just going to be a joy for me to be able to spend this time with her. So I feel special because not only are we doing this together, but I just get to be with her. So this girl time chat today is with a friend, but also a former colleague. We have worked side by side together as well. So before I get ready to bring Felicia in, I want to remind everyone about the Red Bag Workshop. Again, we are on the countdown for the workshop. We are about 26 days away from the start of the workshop, which will be December the 4th and 5th. It is a virtual live experience. And if you have not already put Red Bag in the comments or haven't DM'd me because you're interested, please do so and I will get you over the information. Or you can go directly to nataliesmithwells.com. But the Red Bag Workshop is going to be awesome. So looking forward to meeting you guys that have already registered. I hope that you saw your pre-work and that you have started already, or at least started to think about it because you still have some time. Hey to you guys that are coming on right now on Instagram, good to see you. I'm so glad that you guys are joining us. So enough about the Red Bag Workshop. I'm ready to talk about Felicia. So who I'm introducing you to today, some of you that will watch this face is going to be somebody that you have seen before because you probably have been under her wrath as a student athlete because she plays no games in the profession that she's in. Felicia actually is currently now the Assistant Athletic Director of Academic Success at Belmont University. And we've spent some really good times together. Even though I'm going to focus on kind of her professional side today, I wanted to introduce her in a different way because I know Felicia. We really know each other. And the thing about it is, Felicia is the person, we're going to get to the professional stuff, but let me just tell you, Felicia is the girl that calls you and is like, hey, you want to run a half marathon in North Carolina in the heat? No. And then I find myself being in North Carolina in the heat, going up a mile hill in the first mile of the 13.1. So that's her. Then she calls you later and is like, hey, you want to come to Denver, Colorado? And I know you haven't ran in months, and I know you're 25 pounds overweight right now, but do you want to run another half marathon at altitude? No. But then I find myself in Colorado running this half marathon. And then she's like, and we're running through the zoo. And if you know me all too well, my answer was no on the inside, but she just has this way of getting you to do things you don't really want to do. And then I remember one year, the 4th of July, some of us got together. She's like, I think we should go whitewater rafting in North Carolina. Oh, really? But I can't swim. But I find myself out there on that raft. So this is the type of girlfriend that Felicia is. She will get you to do things that you have never done before, but then you leave thanking God that you took the opportunity to do it, because every time you're with her, you're going to have an amazing time. And so I want to bring Felicia in and talk to her about her professional career, because as I stated, we have worked alongside each other, and she was one of the few people on the academic side that I had worked with before that really got it. That as a head coach, or a former head coach for me, but she got it. She understood it, not just the sport, but she understood holding student athletes accountable on every level. And where we are today in athletics and with the generation that we're working with, we need people like Felicia in these positions. So I'm going to bring Felicia in and welcome her. So I'm so glad to have her with us today. Hi, Felicia.
I just can't. I'm cracking up about your stories on our races. But wait, she didn't share is that I had to chase her every single race. So here we are.
No, but the bad thing is I'm the quote unquote former athlete. You're the academician, and the last race that we actually ran, You mess me up. I'm coming up this hill about to walk, and you're like, you got it, Natalie. I'm like, no, this girl's about to catch me after all these years. Now she can outrun me as far as she wants to. But I'm so thankful that you took the opportunity today to be with me. I know that you're super busy. And I just love your office, and I love that sweater. You are representing real time. That's cute.
Appreciate you.
That is cute. And hey to you guys that are joining us now. Good to see you. Hey Dre. Hey Alexis. Hey Ashanti. Y'all come on in. It's good to see you guys. Well, look, I want to jump in because Felicia, you have worked with multiple sports teams, and trying to remember this stuff by memory is not even realistic. But you've worked with 7 nationally ranked top 10 teams. You've had 3 national championships. You've worked with Power 4. I have to get used to saying Power 4. I'm used to saying Power 5, but Power 4 football teams. You've had 30 plus student athletes who went on to play either in the NHL, the MBL, or NLS, sorry, the soccer, all the letters, NHL, and of course the NFL. I do know that part. And you've had some Olympians that you've worked with academically, and I know the impact that you've made with those student athletes. So I just kind of want to start off by asking, how did you even get into working in the sports arena, especially since your background is in sports as a young jit, as we would say?
Yeah, great question. I was a first generation college student, and I really found purpose in orientation and new student programs when I was a student. I found my place on campus there, and I originally wanted to work on college campus for the rest of my life. Yes. And I thought it was going to be in new student programs and orientation because I wanted to help students who are coming to college for the first time find their place, find their purpose, and really lead successful lives in college. But throughout college, I started making friends who were student athletes, and I realized that they weren't engaging in the orientation and new student program stuff. And so I thought to myself, man, it would be really cool to do what I'm doing, but to help student athletes engage in campus resources. Yeah. And this was way back in 2005 when Champs Life Skills through the NCAA was starting to come about, but it was very much like a checklist thing, like do this workshop for student athletes, and that's how they'll be successful. And as we know, it's not just about doing a workshop. And so I really found some purpose in serving student athletes. So I went to grad school and I really focused on that student population. Yeah. And when I got my degree in student affairs and higher ed, I wanted to work with student athletes. And I had a professor tell me in grad school, you know what, Felicia, you've got the right personality for that, to keep these student athletes in line and to work with some really big personalities. And so I'll never forget it. He passed recently, and he has been inspiring me since that one conversation in that class. And so I've been serving student athletes since. And while the NCAA continues to evolve and try and develop ways to support student athletes, I still stay steadfast in working in academics and finding ways to help them earn meaningful degrees and not at the sacrifice of their sport, whether they go pro or not. And that's really how I got here.
I love that. I love what you just said about to help them to earn meaningful degrees, that their experience on the academic side is just as strong as their experience on the athletic side, because we know the percentage is more than a whole lot of those of us that will not go pro in a sport, but we should go pro, meaning we should go professional. And I think you've done an excellent job with that. I love the different stops that you've made. For those of you that don't know, Felicia is not afraid of change. She's not afraid of going to the next space and the next place. And I think that example before those athletes is really, really good. So I want to know, how would you describe yourself beyond your resume of what grounds you then as a woman and as a leader?
Yeah, great question. When I looked at this question and I was thinking about it, I went to my core values and I thought about my strengths, and I've done a lot of assessments related to these things. So a couple of the core values that really stick with me, or the things that I noted, was my passion. I think a lot of people, if they were to describe me, passion is number one. When I hear from parents and recruiting of student athletes, they're like, I can tell you are passionate about your job. So I would say passion. Integrity. when I do assessments, when I get frustrated, it's usually because integrity is being challenged.
That's
So I
good.
would say integrity is really, really one of my values. Strength. I think strength has been really, really important for me navigating a lot of my changes, working with a lot of different students, a lot of different coaches, navigating cultures, um, a heart for service. I think when we talk about service, a lot of people think community service, but for me, it's just this heart to serve others and how can I serve them and help them and facilitate, not do things for them, but serve them so that they can do things for themselves and really just grow and be able to lead really purposeful lives. That I take what I do really seriously,
Yes.
but I try not to take myself too serious. I was just cutting up in here with some of my soccer guys who was trying to troll me. So I think it's just a balance of that. And then partnering that with a lot of the strengths that I've been able to learn about. I've done a lot of assessments. We did the core clarity assessment together. Communication, individualization is something that has come up on every single assessment I've done in my life. And really, it's just that pride of treating people the way they want to be treated, giving them what they need, not necessarily what they want, and making sure it's all individualized, being equal, but being equitable. So I would say those are probably those things.
I love that. And thank you so much, Dre, for your comments. That's so true. Yes, we need people like her because a lot of people are leaving sports. A lot of people, I mean, I was one of them. A lot of people are leaving those positions. And I want to go back real quick to what Dre said earlier. She says, oh my gosh, I have been a huge advocate for athletes getting real degrees and also being more than just an athlete. The NCAA, she's saying, has got to do a better job at helping us transition out of athletics. And I think that's very strong, and especially with all of the different things that are happening now as far as NIL and all the things that were not there, thank goodness, when I was still coaching. So I didn't have to deal with any of that. One of the points I really like that you said is about, you could tell when frustration is coming when your integrity gets challenged. Oh, and integrity is like my buzzword. It's always so loud to me. So I actually wrote that down because I think you just helped me. That might be some of the reasons and some of the things now that I'm experiencing professionally is you're right. When your integrity gets challenged and you're like, no, this is my core value. This is what I stand on. It's hard, especially in the position that you are in. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I have to ask this. So you brought up core clarity. And I love that you brought up two of your talents, which your talents have become strengths in those areas. Can you tell people if they were listening in, I'm just going to put you on the spot, because a lot of people don't know what core clarity is, and you were one of the first people to go through core clarity with me. What did you gain from that, and why would you encourage somebody to maybe go through core clarity?
Great question. I read a book not too long ago, Atomic Habits. Look it up. Read it, buy it. One of the best books I've ever read. There is one statement out of that book that has helped me so incredibly. It says, that which cannot be measured cannot be changed. And so I think about that often because when we want change or we want to be better or do something different, you have to identify what that is and name it. And so going through core clarity allows you to name things. And so it names some of my talents: belief, activator, learner, individualization, communication. Now I think about that as a leader when I'm leading my staff. This is what I'm good at. And also I want to be really strategic about what I'm not good at. And when I can measure that, I can then have a staff member that has these other things. And that makes our team really strong. And then it allows me to say, okay, now I have somebody who is different than me. How do I lead that person? And how do I work with that person and work well? Because sometimes when we work with people who are different than us, it gets really frustrating because it's just different.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're not as successful because we're different. But when you can name these things, it allows me to better lead, figure out what tasks are better for me, better for them, what students might work better with me versus with them. So when we did sport assignments, for example, I was very strategic about coach personalities, team culture personalities, and we allocated teams that way. Not just, oh, I really love watching men's soccer, so I'm going to take men's soccer. So I think this assessment is so helpful because I think when you can name things, you can leverage them, you can be more pointed in being better at them. And you
Mhm.
can also figure out, where are my gaps and how do I surround myself with people that can fill those gaps, because I don't have to do everything. So
Oh,
it's been helpful for me 100%.
that's so good, because we do not have to do everything. And when you bring up gaps, that's a good segue into this question I have about moving, because you have moved from one state to the other, one university to the next. And with that comes movement into different environments. And so I want to know, what have you learned about identity and purpose, especially when the title changes, the city changes, the surrounding changes. And now, like you said, you're in these different cultures. What have you learned about identity and purpose in the midst of all that movement?
I think it's so important to just know your values, I think is huge.
Mhm.
Um, Knowing your purpose, a lot of times, like when I've been in new spaces and I have been struggling with change in new places, being able to come home and say, okay, I am meant to do this. I think about that professor. I'm like, nope, this is where you belong. I think about all of the times in which God has shown me that this is the path, because
Yeah.
I've thought about getting out of athletics. I think about it still.
Mhm.
Um, but then I think back and I'm like, no, this is what I'm meant to do. And I'm making a difference. And so I think if you can stay grounded in that, it's really important.
Mhm.
Also, I think it's so important to surround yourself with people who will have the testimony when you don't have it.
Right.
Like there are times, and Natalie will tell you, I will call and be like, Natalie, I can't find a place to live. What is
Right.
happening? And Natalie will tell me, Felicia, it always works out for you. It
Always.
does. And then I think about her living situation in South Carolina when she said, I was just at this car shop and this one stranger just popped up and now I have a place to live. And so I still think about that to this day. So I
Yes.
think through transition is good, change is good. But it's so important to just have some roots that can go with you, that just keep you stable in those spaces. And I think it's surrounding yourself with people that know you and know who you are, to remind you of that, because it's really easy to forget that, and have your values. And like I said, naming them, like my value is integrity. It is,
Yes.
this. And if you don't know what your values are, because sometimes we think we know and then we can't name it,
Mhm.
figure out where you get frustrated, because usually you're frustrated because a value of yours is being challenged.
Say so. That's so good. Oh, and thank you for reminding me of that. And interesting that you reminded me of the time, like you said, I was getting my car fixed, and you are telling the truth, girl. And I'll tell you guys the testimony another time. But rest in peace. His name was Junie White. He actually was the mayor of Spartanburg. He actually passed a couple months ago, but he did. He literally, I ran into the mayor, had no idea who he was. And Felicia's exactly right. I was in the middle of a crunch and I needed something. And sure enough, I ended up at a station that he owned. And literally, like, he's like, come here, blah, blah, blah. And what he said to me, I can't say it because it has a cuss word in it. And those of you that knew Mr. Junie, but he was just like, you know what? I took one look at you and I knew you were worth something. And I was just like, what? And it was one of the worst days of my life. But I appreciate you bringing that up, because sometimes we need to go back and remember those moments of transition. And so when you're talking about all the times that you and I have had these conversations, like, oh girl, change is coming, and you know it. So I want to encourage somebody. Hey, Jasmine, good to see you. Hey, Diane. So I want to encourage somebody. You will know when those changes are about to come, even before they come. So what Felicia's talking about is like that knowing. So when I know she makes that phone call to me, it's like, Natalie, it's because your internal man already sees it, already knows it. And it's our external man that's having to figure out, okay, what is going on here? But your inward man already knows. So I want to encourage somebody today, because since I started doing this, I've had a couple of women that have reached out that have recently lost their job or recently had something happen, and they're like, now what? So I really appreciate you saying that. I wanted to know too, because I know what it's like to work with student athletes all too well. So how do you find balance between accountability and empathy when working with young adults who are still trying to figure it out? Because I know for me, that's kind of the crunch that I got into. Like, yeah, I'm big on accountability. I was a coach, but there's this level of empathy that has to go alongside it. How do you balance that?
This question was actually, I felt seen in this question
Mm.
because, like you, I think I'm really great at the accountability. I am so good at it. I am so good at, here's your to-do list. You're not doing this. How do we get better? And if there's any student athletes watching, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Um, the empathy is something I struggle with. I think I have empathy, but how I display empathy sometimes does not land as empathy. And I think, a lot of people talk about the golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated. But actually, I think that's false because not
Right.
everybody wants to be treated like the way I want to be treated. So it's about treating people the way that they want to be treated. And so,
Mhm.
um, I'm working really hard on the empathy piece because even though I feel empathy and I think empathy, that accountability piece is what pays the bills for everybody around here, right?
Come on.
Coaches, student athletes, you've got to be eligible. You have to be able to play. You need
Mm.
to get registered. What I try and do and what I do more of is being in spaces that matter to them, trying to ground myself in what they're doing. So I pride myself on, I try and get to practices. I
Mhm.
try and get to games. I try and travel when I can travel. Like I'm going to hop on the bus to go down to women's basketball next week in Knoxville.
Right.
Or today, after this, I'm going to go to volleyball and I'm going to help some student athletes in the crowd during volleyball because I'm trying to do
Yep.
both. Or men's soccer on Sunday. It's about just being in those spaces so I can remind myself of what students are experiencing so I can give myself a reminder of to be more empathetic, to find more grace. And I think the older I get, the harder it is because the more removed I am from the experience. So
Good.
I am trying really hard to be better at showing empathy and having patience. And those are just some of the concrete things that I'm doing to get better at that. Um,
Mm.
and I think it's really hard, especially in today's world when everything has to happen right away. It has to get done in a very specific way. And it feels like the world is going to shatter if you don't do it right now and get it done. Because empathy, in order to have good empathy, there has to be space and there has to be time.
Mm.
And we live in a world where there is no space, there is no time. Um, and so I think I'm not great at it, honestly. I'm great at the accountability. I think that's why coaches love working with me.
Right. Right.
But I definitely need to continue to work on the empathy piece.
Man, that is so good. And if you're a professional watching now or will watch this later, take into accountability, not into accountability, but take into thought of what Felicia just said. She said, yeah, I'm real good at the accountability part, but I'm really having to work through the empathy part. Sometimes as professionals, especially when we're working with a demographic that's younger than we are, we have more experience than they do, blah, blah, blah. All that's really out the window. But I love how you're very honest of saying sometimes the empathy doesn't land. So I want to challenge somebody today. What is it that you think that you're doing that maybe it's not landing? And whether that's professionally, whether that's personally, even with yourself, what's something you think you may be doing for yourself that you're actually not doing a very good job of, or as she said, you're living in this myth of just treating people how you want to be treated. And I agree with you totally there because every one of us is different. And so we have to find that time and that space to see, okay, how does empathy or how does me showing up with accountability work well with this individual? And I love that. And because you have the talent, individualization, and communication, that's a heck of a mix because you're able to really use your talents to jump in that. Hey, Dre's giving us the business on Facebook, and I love it. She's like, woo, she is needed in this space. Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you, Dre, for saying that. And what's crazy, Dre, is Felicia left basically like 6 months before you got to USC Upstate. So you just missed her because I know y'all would have loved each other. So I love that. So thank you for sharing that. Now, something else that I want to know, and I really want to get to this because a lot of times as women, we're not the best at this. And I even say as a people, sometimes we're not the best at this. I want to know for you, and congratulations again on your new role. I can't believe January will be a year already that you have been there. Like it's going by so fast. But I want to know in this season of your life, where you are right now, like I said, you've experienced so many different places, cultures, people, teams, professional settings that most people don't experience in their lifetime, to be really honest with you. So I want to know, in this season of life and in leadership, what are you the most proud of?
Okay. I actually struggled to answer this because I feel like with a heart of service comes like the lack of like reflection on, okay, like, oh wow, like I've just been so busy doing, getting here that I don't really think back and say, okay, what am I proud of? Like I can say I'm proud to be here, but like, what am I proud of that actually got me here?
Mm,
And what I wrote down yesterday is strength. And it's just wild to think about, like, because I didn't think like, oh, it took strength to get here. But when I really reflect back, it did. Like when I think about the really challenging times I had in certain roles or positions, places, to be a first generation college student, figuring out how to navigate college and then being like, well, I almost failed my classes, so let me go help other people not fail.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
just I think it's just the strength. I think it's strength in so many different ways. It's the strength to be vulnerable and say, I didn't do that right. Or the
Mm,
strength to get feedback from somebody to say that, yeah, you kind of sucked at this.
mhm,
Or the strength to be able to work with 120 football athletes as a woman.
mhm.
Um, the strength to be in. I remember being in coaches meetings. I have a flaw right now where I cut people off on the end of their sentences. And I got that from working in football for 10 years.
Mhm.
I'd be in a room of 20 male football coaches. And if I didn't cut somebody off on the end of their sentence, I wouldn't get a space to speak.
Right.
And so just the strength to be in there and to be in those conversations, the strength to have moved all the times I've moved,
Mhm.
uh, the strength to be alone. I think that has been something that I'm really like thinking about, like, man, I'm this age and this is where I'm at in my life. And like, but there was strength to get there. So I would say I'm just really most proud of just that trait of just being strong through all of it and rejection. And yeah.
Oh, this is good, girl. Thank you for, and I sorry guys that I'm saying girl, but this is my girl, so I can say that. But I appreciate just that honesty and that transparency, because even in that, like you said, even in thinking about it, letting yourself reflect. And I love how you open that question up of when you're a person that walks with this heart of service and that is your bread and butter. Like, I'm here literally to serve you. We do not spend much time really reflecting on how we got there. And you're so brilliant. Like you just said, it was strength, but the layers that you unpacked just now on paper would look like it wasn't the strength. Most people would have started listing all of the things that they did check off their list and their degrees and all the stuff. And I mean, you already have a master's degree, but now you're also working on your MBA. People would begin to list that. And I love it because you said, when I didn't do it right, or when somebody said it sucked, and I was open to that feedback. Somebody needs to hear that today. You can teach us so much about that. Or when you look at the flaws, or even rejection, when rejection has happened, or walking through these different transitions, quote unquote, alone. You know what I mean? And so I want to even speak to that professional woman right now that, no matter what age you are, mid 30s or in your 40s or even in your 50s, and you're like, the professional side is going really good. I love it. But there is that balance of when I get done and me and my little dog Doug get to hang out, it'd be nice to have a fine thing waiting on me at home too, So let's just be
Amen.
real. Let's just be real. So I love that honesty. I love that you have not allowed any of those things to stop you from taking those leaps. I mean, you ain't never scared, and even if we're scared, we do it scared. And so I'm so proud of you for sharing that. So before I ask Felicia a few more questions, I want to say that to that woman right now. Like I want women to know, men as well, but especially women to know that. Like look and see what strength is taking you to get to this point, and take the time to maybe write it down and say, you know what, this is what I'm proud of. And you're right, I'm horrible at it. So I'm going to take my own advice and I'm going to do this activity too. And I might call you back with a couple more people that are willing to do it with us, because I appreciate how you just shared that. So tell me this then, what's one piece of advice that you would give to someone right now about trusting their preparation, trusting and embracing the unknown? Because a lot of people are there. They're sick and tired of just getting along. They're sick and tired of just doing this only for money, or they're tired of being in the wait. So, since you've experienced a lot of those things, what advice would you give us?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I thought about yesterday.
Mhm.
One is going to be obvious, but might be honestly the hardest of the three is just trusting God.
Yep,
I'm
I
going to be
knew it.
emotional talking about it, so I'm going to try and keep it together.
Woo!
Yeah, just like trusting, and it's so hard. It is so hard.
Yeah.
And sorry, this is the passion. So,
Uh-huh.
I'm being at Belmont now. Like, I applied for this job. Like, I was in the mix of like 3 or 4 different jobs at Power Fours. I was, you're gonna get this. Like, we're gonna get your partner a job here. My partner, I don't have one.
Yeah.
Here, so you can get here, and then not getting it, being told to apply for a higher level job, and then getting ghosted. Like, you told me to apply.
Right.
Just being in a space of like, yeah, okay, this is it. This is the change. This is where I need to be. And then, this Belmont position just kept coming through on my email. And I literally applied, I think on like a Saturday. I actually looked at it one day and I was like, I got to write a paper for this job. Like, cause I would
Right.
talk about the faith part of this institution and how my goals align with it. And I was like, I'm not writing a paper.
Mhm.
And then I just kept just sitting there and came up
Mhm.
again. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. So I applied on a Saturday and they called me on Monday, 2 days later. And they
Mhm.
were like, we're finishing interviews, but we just saw this come through, which was a first sign for me because when you're in that interviewing process, you don't want to go back into the applications. There are so
Right.
many. So the fact that they even saw it, and then I had a phone interview on Tuesday, and then they called me on Wednesday. It was Thanksgiving break, called me on Wednesday, invited me to campus the next week. And then literally the 2 days after I got back from my on campus, I had a job offer.
Mhm.
So this process was like a week. And I go to meetings at Belmont and I am in like, I almost cry every time because it's just
Right.
like things happen at the beginning of every single meeting, whether it's a staff meeting, a university leadership meeting, a professional development opportunity I've signed up for because I sign up for everything. Um, and I'm just like, this is where I'm meant to be. Like
Mhm.
this, I can't even believe this place exists when I go
Woo.
to some of these meetings because I'm like, it can't be that perfect.
Yeah.
And everybody tells you like God has better. God has better for you. He will give you more than you can even imagine exists. And I'm in these meetings and I'm like, this is it. Like, and I always get emotional and then I'm like, okay, I gotta focus. Like this is an important meeting. So it's just so wild to be here. So it's about trusting God. But then when I reflect back on the journey here, it was like, okay, why didn't I trust God?
Mhm.
Right. And so some of the things that I did and that I would advise you to do, and I said this earlier, but surround yourself with people who have the testimony when you don't.
Mm.
So I can sit here and I know Natalie tells me like, remember when you did this and it worked out for you? But I
Mhm.
find myself justifying why this circumstance is different than my previous circumstance. But
Yep.
what I can't do is I can't justify why Natalie's circumstance was different than that circumstance. So when
Mhm.
Natalie tells me when it works out for her and the testimonies that she can share with me,
Mhm.
I can't question that. I can't say, well, that's different. And so I think it's about surrounding yourself with people who just can share their testimonies and share those examples of like, this is when it worked out. Because God's not going to treat you differently than Natalie. It's not like, oh, he's not
Right.
going to work it out for her and not for me. So
Right. Right.
I think that's so important. And I think it's about validating your feelings because your feelings are really valid and real, but also sitting in fact. And I think a lot of people, when things aren't working or you're in transition, people tell you,
Still
focus on
hearing.
the facts. Focus on the facts. Are you good? I feel like
Yeah,
you're.
my internet kind of went crazy.
Oh,
Keep
you're good.
going.
Um, Facts. You gotta sit in the facts, not in your feelings. But that doesn't mean ignore your feelings. Like this summer, it was like I feel rejected. I feel like I suck at this job. Like, how did I
Mhm.
not get these jobs? Um, like those feelings are valid. And I think when people sit there and say, but that doesn't mean you're not good at your job, that's hard because my feelings are still there. And so I
Yes.
think it's so important to validate your feelings, name your feelings,
Mhm.
and then sit in the fact. So yes, I can feel rejected and I can feel like this really is not great. And also the fact is I am still a good professional and
Come
I
on.
still am I can still get a job, and the rejection is protection. It's true. But
Mhm.
also I think we have to still acknowledge our feelings. And I think it's about managing the feelings and the facts. And that would be my biggest advice is just validate those feelings. They're real, and we should be able to sit in them and exist in them. And also make sure the story you're telling yourself about those feelings are actually facts.
Mm.
Because when you can sit in those facts and then you work through the feelings, that's how you can move through that transition. So those would be my 3 pieces of advice. Trust God,
Mm.
surround yourself with those testimonies, and then balance the facts and the feelings.
Listen now, I hear you, Dre. Dre said, "Where do we send a love offering?" My goodness, she is teaching. I didn't know my girl was gonna come on here preaching today, but I know she has the ability to if you just let her lean in, like she said, into her passion. And I am so proud of you. I mean, everything that Felicia is sharing with us, I can concur and confirm that she is telling you the sure enough truth. I have seen her walk through this. We have had these conversations. And then just to picture, I picture us right now with Ashley. I picture us sitting at your dad's house, like in his phenomenal house. Her dad is phenomenal. But I see us sitting in Colorado in his house, and these phone calls and these emails coming through, and everything that you're talking about people wanting you to apply for a high position in your life. Dude, what is happening here? I just need a strong yes. Like, stop sending me. But the fact that you are now at a place, like you said, that you're looking around saying, I can't even believe this place existed. And I want to encourage somebody today, the place exists. There is a grace on a place, a space, and a person for you. And once God graces that place, that space, or that person, because somebody has to point you out, somebody has to the place. But there's a grace that will find those people, and will find that space. And when you get there, you will just know. And it'll still have its things that come with it. It'll still have its challenges. But when you're in that groove, you got to really lean into it. So thank you for sharing that stuff with us. Dre, I am literally gonna send you her cash app when we get off of here, just because I know you're dead. She is like dead serious, and I know it. So I am gonna send that. Um, is there anything before I let you go, Felicia, that you have said so much that is bigger than professionalism? It's life. And I can only imagine being a parent of someone that's in between that age of 18 and 24, and them getting the opportunity to be with you. As you said, managing your feelings and the facts. I can hear you saying that to student athletes. When a student athlete is saying, well, this is happening for them, but not for me. Okay, watch that testimony. It's happening for somebody, and you're able to see it and hear about it. So you need to know that it can happen for you. So is there anything else that you would just leave us with, some parting words before I let you go? Because this has been amazing.
Yeah, so this has been on my heart. Actually, I was at a professional development opportunity at Belmont 2 days ago, and the presenter had said, people are going to know your traits before you do. So listen. And that actually made me think when I was reflecting on these questions to prepare for today, as I was going through this and thinking about, what does God have for me? What is my path? Can you please just tell me, like, I'm sure a lot of people can relate. I hope a lot of people can relate. I just wish you could send me an email or a text, like, here's what it is. And I hear, we think about, okay, listen to God, like God will tell you. And I think so many times I get into spaces where I'm like looking for it. Like, okay, is that the message? Is it right there? And when she said you need to listen to people because they will tell you, it really makes me think, listen to God because he will tell you. You don't have to search for what he's saying. You just got to listen. And I think when we sit, and I think a lot of that is just because the world, it has to be done now and quickly. And, we don't have time to listen. And I think it's just about listening and really just sitting with that. And because he will tell you. And I had to listen to him when I didn't get this one job this summer. And we were doing those emails, and it was just back and forth. And I was just like, and then sometimes I was listening and I was like, I don't really like what's
Right. Right.
But I think it's just about listening and really just sitting with that and being okay if it's not what you expected to hear. And being able to just be confident in what you have and where you're going, and sitting in your values and your purpose. And because it doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, what job you're in, as long as you are grounded in your values, you'll be happy.
Yeah.
As long as you can be true to that. And like I said, that goes back to that frustration piece. You'll be frustrated when your values are challenged. And so that's what I would just say, is just really figure out what those values are, and listen, and get yourself a good group of people. Like, I am so incredibly thankful for Natalie. Like, I will never forget when I picked her up from the airport for her interview, when we met. And I think about it often. I'm like, God is so good, and he will give you what you need. And you just got to be in it and wait for it and listen. So,
oh, man, what a way to end. Thank you so much. I am hoping that this gets into a lot of ears of people, because you have said so many things. I'm probably going to have to go and clip some stuff, because you have given us so many tools and so many action steps that we can take immediately. So I appreciate you. And before you go, I just want to say too, like, you just left us with that word listen. And you and I talked about this briefly before we jumped on today. That listening can also save us, you guys. It can save us from heartache. It can save us from future destruction. And as Felicia and I are kind of reflecting on, a year and a half ago when she was in that space, like she said, there was a big time job. There was a big power forward, like a big time thing that was there. But there was, again, that knowing in her was like, but it just it just doesn't. So move on that. When it's, it just don't, then don't. And she didn't. And that particular location now is kind of in shambles. It's in a crazy space right now. And she would have been in the midst of that. But instead, because she listened, because she took that Saturday and said, okay, I'm going to finally do this. And now she's in this beautiful space. So thank you so much. I'm going to talk to you soon. And I really appreciate you giving us your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Right, bye. Oh man, guys, there was so much. Like, literally, I have notes over here. Pay attention to frustrations and see if that's what's happening, is that your integrity is being challenged. That slapped me across the head. She talked about different things not landing. When we know there's some things that we need to show and we need to do, well, it just may not be landing. So we have to pay attention to that. I love how she talked through how we treat people. We need to see how it is that they want to be treated. I mean, these are legit lessons. When you have a heart of service, somebody needs to hear this. Sometimes we don't do a good job of reflecting ourselves and allowing those moments to sit with us of what God has done in our life, what he's used us to do, and how we got to this point. I love how she talked about feedback and how to hear from people when they're saying you didn't do that right, or you sucked at that, and being able to take that feedback and move according to that. And of course, her talking about strength in so many different ways. I'm so glad that our paths crossed, and I'm so glad that you got the opportunity to hear from a true professional, somebody who's really passionate about what they do, and not just passionate. There's a saying that we say, you don't want to have someone that just has the burning but doesn't have the learning. She has both. She has the learning, she has the brilliance for it, but she has the burning, she has the passion for it. And that's what you want to look for. So again, thank y'all for joining us today. I will be back soon to finish out our week of talking about that is double causing you trouble. But again, we are looking forward to the Redback Workshop. And if you're interested, I'd love for you to sign up. Have a great weekend.